Summary of 2 Thessalonians. Introduction. Paul wrote his second letter to the Thessalonians probably during his 18-month stay in Corinth during his second missionary journey, circa AD 49-51. Paul offers thanksgiving to God for the faithfulness and perseverance of the church amid their continuing persecution, something Paul assures them that indicates God will return to save them. The letter addresses 2 main concerns for the church. Firstly, there seemed to be some confusion that the day of the Lord had already occurred, and that the Thessalonians had somehow missed out on their expected salvation at Christ's return. Paul sets their minds at rest, clearly laying out what must first take place before the second coming of Jesus. He reassures them that they will be saved while those who were persecuting them, and unbelievers in general, would face the wrath of God. Paul also instructs the church to have nothing to do with those in the church who were refusing to work but were expecting wealthier Christians to provide their needs. Chapter 1. After his introduction, verses 1-2, Paul begins his epistle with an account of his high esteem for these Thessalonians, verses 3-4. He then comforts them under their afflictions and persecutions, verses 5-10, telling them what his prayers to God for them were, verses 11-12. Chapter 2. Paul was very careful to hinder the spreading of an error into which some among them had fallen concerning the coming of Christ, as being very near, verses 1-3. He then proceeds to confute the error he cautioned them against, by telling them of 2 great events that were antecedent to the coming of Christ, a general apostasy and the revelation of Antichrist, concerning whom Paul tells them many remarkable things, about his name, his character, his rise, his fall, his reign, and the sin and ruin of his subjects, verses 4-12. He then comforts them against the terror of this apostasy, and exhorts them to steadfastness, verses 13-15, concluding with a prayer for them, verses 16-17. Chapter 3. At the end of the previous chapter, Paul had prayed earnestly for the Thessalonians, and now he desires their prayers, encouraging them to trust in God, to which he subjoins another petition for them, verses 1-5. He then proceeds to give them commands and directions for correcting some things he was informed were amiss among them, verses 6-15, and concludes with benedictions and prayers, verses 16-18. Summary of 2 Thessalonians ends.